I'm Simon of Simon's Fine Foods. I teach cooking classes and do private food demos, anything food related really, to be honest. So you can catch me on 292-6121 to learn some new skills, some new food, a little bit of changing up your weekly menus. So today's menu is going to be little individual vegetable tartlets, and we're going to make an apple chutney to go on top of the little mini tartlets. So today we're going to start with the chutney. Now chutney is a very traditional British dish, a little bit similar to sort of a compote, kind of a fruit-based relish. Now what we're going to use today is some Granny Smith apple, we've got a little onion, we've got some fresh lemon, fresh ginger, some raisins, sugar, and apple cider vinegar. Now the idea of this actual recipe is we're looking for some sort of sweet and sour flavors going on. It was originally designed as a sort of a preservative in the summer when there was a big glut of fruit, and so you want to be able to preserve that fruit ready for the winter. So what we're going to do is start off with a little bit of onion. So I need a little bit of diced onion. This is just a yellow onion here. This is a little technique that chefs use. I teach this in one of the cooking class actually. Cut a few slices down. Keep the root on there, cut across, just about the same thickness as the slices, and then cut straight down. And then we've got some nice little diced pieces. Now the whole point of this chutney, we need to make everything reasonably small because the whole dish is going to be small. Appetizers want to be flavorful. They want to be a big flavor explosion in the mouth. You don't want to just continually eat that same old spinach dip. Get something different on for the holidays. Next thing we're going to do is going to make our base dish here. So we've got some apple cider vinegar. It's going to go in with the onion. Now this needs to be cooked out a little bit first just to get the onions from being a raw stage to being sort of partly cooked. We've got some lovely brown sugar here. So we should give it kind of a nice molassy kind of flavor to it. Put our sugar in. Next we're going to add a little bit of fresh ginger. Fresh ginger is always good to use. You can buy this stuff in jars. Now again, the whole point of this recipe is kind of trying to get as much of this done ahead of time as possible. So you can make this chutney today and it's going to last you a month in the fridge, at least a month. So then we're going to put in some garlic. So we're just going to do the same thing, take the skin off, give it a little bit of a tap just to get the skins come off nice and easy. Same thing, microplane, watch your fingers, and about 3/4 of a clove of garlic. Tap that in there, and that's our base flavor there. So we're going to take this to the stove, and we're going to kind of partly cook the onion down, boil up the sugar and the vinegar to get a little bit syrupy, and then we'll come back to the apple. So here we are, we're back with the pan. The onions have softened a little bit. The sugar and the ginger and the garlic and the vinegar is all sort of melded together, and we've got a kind of a base syrup. So now we need to add the main ingredient, which today we're using Granny Smith apples. Now Granny Smith apples are very good because they're very tart, they're very nice sharp flavor to them. So we're going into sort of sweet, sour, sharp, that kind of flavor development. To do this, we're going to peel the apple. We're going to just very carefully take the skin off, not losing too much of the fruit. So what we do is we're going to just take off the best bit of the apple. Keep that for your compost. And cut it up nice and small. Now we want this chutney to be a nice sort of spoonable material, so we don't want it too chunky. Okay, so there's our nice Granny Smith apple. We've got that lovely, lovely small diced pieces there. We don't want to go too large. Go straight in the pan with the vinegar, the sugar, the garlic and the ginger. Then we're going to add some fresh lemon juice. Squeeze that lemon juice in there, probably a couple of teaspoons. And what this does is actually starts to create the pectin in the apples, kind of making it a little bit like a jam almost. So you need that pectin in there. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to take that to the stove. We're going to basically simmer that, just cook it down till the fruit is nice and tender. Everything is going to be reduced down. And then pretty much near the end, we'll throw in some raisins. Now, if you don't like raisins, you can use dried cranberries, dried apricots, whatever kind of dried fruit you like. But this is going to add a little more texture to the dish and a little more sort of a flavor. Okay, so here's the chutney. So it's finished up. The fruit is very tender. I've already added the raisins, so they're just starting to plump up in the liquid there, getting nice and juicy. So the chutney now, we're going to put into this bowl, refrigerate it, and get it nice and cold. Now, there's nothing saying you cannot eat this hot. It actually goes good with maybe some roast pork or something kind of like that. But we want it cold. We want it cold to go on top of our hot little quiches. So we're gonna have a hot and cold, sweet and sour, fruity, lots of flavor development going on. So we're gonna put this straight into the cooler, get it chilled, and then that's done. So here's the filling for the little tartlet. So we've got some diced onion, we've got some nice fine diced pepper, some mushroom, some zucchini, and we're gonna put in a little bit of sun-dried tomato as well. So I'm just gonna finish up this last little piece here. And what I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna saute the ingredients in kind of the order that they need to be cooked in, which is almost how it's set up here. If you throw all of this in a pan, it's just gonna be raw onion, raw pepper, overcooked mushroom. So we're actually gonna cook this in stages in the same pan. We're gonna start with the onion, then we're gonna add the pepper, then we'll add the mushroom, and the very last thing is zucchini, because the zucchini won't take long to cook at all. Okay, so we're gonna start with we've got a warm pan. Always put oil into a warm pan, because it's gonna basically increase in volume. You don't wanna flood the pan with too much grease. Canola oil there, just let that get warm for a second. Then we're going to start to add our ingredients. So we've got our onion, and we're going to start to saute it. Now I'm not using a spoon, I'm going to use my hand just to use the frying pan, stir it up a little bit. Give that a quick second. We don't want to burn this mixture, we want to keep it moving. So next thing we'll do is start to add some peppers. Same thing. Just keep flipping it around, keep it moving all the time. If you're at home, use a spoon. Yeah, don't worry about it. Next we'll add some mushroom, and you can use, if you wanted, you can use portobellos, you could use wild mushroom, shiitakes, whatever you got in the house. Same thing, keep that moving. Next we'll add some zucchini. And the one thing you'll notice, we've got some lovely colors going on. So we've got something for the kind of the nice holiday season, something bright, colorful, tasty, beautiful. So we add a little bit of seasoning. So we've got some fresh black pepper, a little bit of salt. Always season from a height as well. Now the reason being is when you season nice and high, the salt will actually kind of spread out nice and evenly. If you're too close, you'll end up with quite a clump of salt. So season from a height. Just like those guys on TV, yeah? So here's the finished product. So all our vegetables are nicely cooked, not overcooked. Very important to sort of cook these to just the point of al dente. We don't want to make this too mushy. What I'm going to do now is basically take this to a plate, put it in the cooler, get it cold, and then that's ready for our filling for the little quiches. So now we're going to start to assemble the little tartlets. So what we have here is one of these regular trays. You can get them from Superstore, wherever. They're pretty cheap. So we'll grease them up. The next thing we're going to do is get our pastry rolled out. Now, what this is puff pastry. This is from the freezer section of most of the grocery stores. The main reason we're using a bought pastry is, again, for ease of use. It's the holidays. You don't want to be standing there making too much of the stuff. And this makes a very, very Moorish quiche. This is very, very tasty to use this as opposed to a short crust. So what we're going to do is use a little bit of flour. Just dust both sides. Take your pin, make sure that's well floured, and we're going to roll this out nice and gently. Doesn't need too much. Now you need to take this out of the freezer about 24 hours before you want to use it, just so it gets defrosted to the right temperature. You don't want this to be at room temperature too long, so straight from the fridge, and then probably half an hour, and then you're good to go with it. So here's the pastry, and just to show you how thin it is against my hand there. So we don't want it any thicker, and we don't want it any thinner than this. Okay, so pretty thin. Now to cut this, just use a cutter that's going to be 1.5 times bigger than the hole you're going to fill. So I'm just using one of these little cups here. Just cut around the outside, like so. Just take it out. Now to fill it, we're going to just basically pop it into the tin. Use your fingertips. Now ladies, if you've got long nails, it's not going to work. You're going to have to get your son, your husband involved in this. So push it in there very gently, and then we're going to push the excess pastry up the sides there. And we want to make sure there's no air pockets underneath. So just keep pushing it out. Make sure the bottom is full. Now if you've got nails, you can see at this point, you're going to make a hole, and we have to put a liquid in here which is going to sort of ooze out, so we need to make sure this is a sealed area. Now, as you can see, all of the pastry on this is all sort of hanging over the edges, but we need a little excess because it's going to shrink a little bit in the oven. So if there's no excess, it'll shrink down, the liquid's going to go everywhere, and you're going to end up with a bit of a mess. So make sure there's a little bit of extra pastry on the top there. So here's our vegetable mixture. So it's just been cooled in the fridge and it's ready to use. So we're going to take a teaspoon and start to fill up our molds here. Now you're looking at roughly just under a teaspoon per little tartlet. Okay, so we've filled the little tartlets with the veggies. Now we're going to just top each one with a little bit of sun-dried tomato here. This is going to give you a nice kind of little bit of salty, rich tomato flavor here. We'll fill these up, and then what we're actually going to do, I'll just demonstrate one. We're going to put a little bit of ghost cheese on top of them, and then we're going to make an egg custard just to fill them up. So I'll do all of these, we'll come back to it and show you the final result. So now you can see we've filled the tartlets, we've got our veggies, we've got sun-dried tomatoes, we've got ghost cheese in it, so lots of good flavor. Now we need to make a little custard to go inside. So these are like mini quiches, all right, so very easy. So we're gonna do a couple of eggs, cracked in there. Don't get any shells in there. 2 eggs, some pepper, fresh pepper, a couple of pinches of salt. Now, as opposed to the traditional method, which is to use milk, we're actually going to use cream because it's going to be lovely and rich, and that's going to add us more flavor and a better consistency. So add your cream and your egg, and we're going to beat that together. Now, if you had it, you could actually stick in like a teaspoon of pesto in here, just to flavor up a little bit more. So really, we're just piling on the flavors. But the most important thing to remember is we're piling on flavors that work together. All right, we're not making a crazy mixture. We're making a good combination. The main reason we're using the apple chutney is because the ghost cheese is very rich and very creamy. This is obviously creamy, so the ghost cheese and the apple is going to work together, and you're going to sort of get that nice flavor combo happening. So we're going to beat this up just like that. Then you're going to take a teaspoon, and we're going to fill up the little tartlets with probably a teaspoon and a little bit, just to sort of everything's covered. So we're going to fill up this the rest of these. We're going to bake them at 375 Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes. So now we've got everything in here. We've got our puff pastry, we've got our veggies, sun-dried tomato, ghost cheese, our egg custard. And we're going to take this to the oven, 375 Fahrenheit, about 10 minutes, just so they're cooked, and then we'll bring them out and show you how delicious these are going to be. Okay, so let's check our lovely little tartlets. Beautiful, really good. So the custard is cooked because I can see there's no excess liquid coming out. The puff pastry is puffed, which is what we want, giving a nice bite to it, and everything is nicely cooked. So we're going to take this over here and we're going to garnish it up and show you how we're going to present them. Okay, so we're going to just present these. So this is how I would do it. Now you can see how the puff pastry has just sort of risen out slightly, giving it a really nice fluffy, flaky pastry there. It's really good. So we're just going to present it on this nice wooden platter here. Pull that to the side. Then we've got our chutney here, so that's nice and cool. Very small, everything's nice and small. We're going to stick a little bit of chutney on top. Okay, so we're going to just finish these with a tiny bit of dill for some color, a little bit of more flavor, and there you go. So here's our beautiful little tartlets. Creamy ghost cheese, nice veggies, sun-dried tomato, a beautiful Granny Smith apple chutney, a little bit of dill to finish. So I just want to wish you all happy holidays. If you want to do a cooking class in the new year, come and find out all about how to make this kind of food and more. Go to www.simonsfinefoods.com or give me a call, 292-6121, and I'll help you decide what's going to be best for you. So enjoy this, make something different this year. Try this out.